Welcome once again to Lehto's Law. Here's Steve Lehto.
A whole bunch of people sent me a story out of Kentucky, and it's the headline that gets your attention. But it is a fascinating story involving employment law, believe it or not. Kentucky man sues employer for throwing him a birthday party, and now they owe him $450,000. At the heart of the story is a birthday party the man did not want to have in the workplace. A Kentucky man took his employer to court after they threw him a birthday party he didn't want, and the jurors sided with him, awarding him $450,000 to be paid by the employer. This story is from WLKY.com. The verdict was handed down this week in Kenton County Circuit Court in northern Kentucky. The plaintiff was an employee of Gravity Diagnostics. He sued his employer after he was fired following a birthday party they threw for him back in August. According to court documents, the employee had notified the office manager that birthday parties trigger his anxiety disorder and that being the center of attention will cause him to have a panic attack. So he says he told them, "Don't do it. I can't handle it. It's actually something that will cause a problem for me." The employee asked the office manager days before his birthday to not arrange a celebration on his birthday. And he knew it was coming, apparently, because that's what they did for everybody. So everybody got a birthday party, but he went to his bosses and said, "Look, I don't want one. I can't handle one. They cause me to have panic attacks." On August 7th, which was the man's birthday, the office arranged for a lunchtime birthday party in the lunchroom, according to the lawsuit. The employee said that he found out about the party as he was headed to his lunch break, so he got word of it at the last minute, wasn't expecting it, and it triggered a panic attack. Now, they keep saying that this happened this past August, and I can't imagine that a case went to a jury trial that quickly. But I suppose it's possible, but it seems awfully fast. The incident caused the employee to leave the office suddenly and spend his lunch break in his car. So you have to imagine this. You might say a lot of people spend their lunch break in their car, making phone calls, trying to get some quiet time, listening to the radio. You never know. But of course, there's a bunch of people in the lunch break room having a birthday party for a guy who just walked out. And that might cause a little bit of social friction in the workplace. The employee sent a text message to the manager asking why she still went ahead with the birthday party when he had specifically told her he didn't want one and he actually couldn't handle one. The next day, the employee was called into a meeting in which he said that he was confronted and criticized by the office manager about his reaction to the birthday party. That meeting then triggered another panic attack, and the employee asked the office manager to stop, according to the lawsuit. So he basically said, "Look, that's my story. Let's just move on. I want you to stop. I can't handle this." The employee was then sent home for 2 days. And that weekend, he was notified he was being fired because of the events of the previous week, and that's in quotes. Because of the events of the previous week. Now, that could be a quote from the lawsuit, the complaint itself, or he may have said that they said that to him literally. It's unclear. But we also know that they say he was notified. The question is, did they call him and tell him, or did they email him or text him? Because it says here that he did communicate somewhat with somebody at the office via text. So he sent a text message to the office manager. The employee sued the company on the grounds of disability discrimination and retaliation. According to the lawsuit, the employee said because the company didn't accommodate his anxiety disorder, the birthday party and the events afterwards caused him to suffer from a loss of income and benefits and emotional distress and mental anxiety. The jury sided with him, agreeing that the company violated Kentucky law that protects workers who have a disability from adverse employment actions. In total, the jury awarded the employee $450,000 in damages. Of that amount, $300,000 was for emotional distress, $150,000 was for lost wages. So what's interesting about this case is that the birthday party aspect of it is what gets it into the headlines. But everything in here is just a typical employment case, if you think about it. And I know that I talk a lot about lemon law and say, I specialize in lemon law now. I've been practicing law for 31 years. And every now and then someone will post on a comment to a video or something and say, well, he's just a lemon law lawyer. He's just a lemon law lawyer. Like I went to Lemon Law University. It's kind of like, Hamburger College or something. And no, I went to law school and passed the bar and got admitted to be a lawyer. So I'm a lawyer. Now, the fact that I choose to specialize in lemon law is just because I've gotten so busy with just those. I don't need to handle other stuff, and I choose not to. But earlier in my career, I've done all kinds of stuff. I was a public defender for a while. I've handled a lot of criminal cases. But I've also, at one point in time, handled employment law cases. And I'm not sure if I've even mentioned that before, because to me it's so far off topic that unless I talk about employment law, why would I mention it? But I've handled employment law cases. And I'm not as familiar with Kentucky law as I am with Michigan law. But generally speaking, your employer has got to make accommodations for you in the workplace if you've got conditions and medical conditions and so on that you know about and you put them on notice of. And so when he tells them, I get panic attacks in situations like birthday parties, I don't want a birthday party. The interesting thing is that the birthday party is not part of his employment. It's not like he says, you want me to work with spreadsheets all day long. I'm just letting you know right now that spreadsheets cause me to have panic attacks. I can't do spreadsheets. You'd go, well, that's your job. We might be able to find some way to accommodate you and do something but a birthday party during the lunch break ain't what he does for a living. And he told them, I've got this issue. So I presume, and I could be wrong on this, but I presume that when they went to trial on this, you don't just get on the stand, tell your story, sit down and rest. Okay? You get on the stand, tell your story, but you'd also bring in somebody to explain what this anxiety disorder is that this guy's got and explain about how he was diagnosed with it and what it causes him to do and how realistic that is and how believable that is. And there are people out there, I've met people who don't believe in certain things. And they might say, I don't believe that anxiety disorder exists. I don't believe that. I don't believe that. And I've heard people claim that there's things out there that people, I don't know, I don't believe that. How come? Well, I never heard that when I was a kid, whatever. Here's the point. Let's assume for a moment that this is true, that the guy's actually been treated. He's had someone explain to him, here's what this is called. This is an anxiety disorder. And you probably know things that trigger it. And he's probably going to be, one of them is birthday parties. And so as part of their proofs, you'd bring in, obviously, the plaintiff. You bring in somebody to explain what these anxiety disorders are, how they're triggered, and what they actually do, and so on. And then the jury, after hearing all the evidence, including the defense, because the defense is going to get in there and say, look, the guy just, he bailed on a birthday party. What's wrong with him? And they can also, if the plaintiff puts in medical evidence, can cross-examine the person putting that evidence in. But they can also bring in their own person. And it's not uncommon where there's a lawsuit involving some kind of claim of a medical issue that they'll send the person for an IME, independent medical exam. And so they'll have you go see their doctor. And they'll find a doctor who says, this might exist, but you ain't got it. And everyone knows that in these fields, you can always find somebody who's always going to find a problem. And you're always going to find somebody who says it doesn't exist. I understand that, but my point simply is, so if you're on the jury, what you likely saw was opening statements from both sides. Then this guy gets in the stand, explains what happened, shows the texts, shows the communications, tells his story, describes what happened to him, and then they bring in somebody else who explains what his condition is. And they might bring in somebody else, like his wife or girlfriend or somebody else who's close to him, to describe how this affected him at the time and so on. And they may have even brought in an actuarial to discuss lost wages and so on. And so, and then the defendants get to bring in their own witnesses, bring in the people who described the birthday party and why they threw it when they threw it. And then, of course, they'll bring in their doctor who's going to say, something, this is a bunch of hooey. Nothing wrong with that guy. Just woo, woo, that kind of thing. And so, and woo, woo, that's a medical diagnosis. Remind me, I got to crack a joke about that in a second. So they see all of this, and after all of that, a jury came back and awarded him $450,000. So a lot of people want to say, Steve, $450,000 is a lot of money for this case, and it might be. I don't know. And it might get struck down by the trial court. It might get reduced or reversed on appeal. I don't know. These are all possibilities. These all could happen. But as of right now, a jury hearing both sides of this came to the conclusion that the man was right and he shouldn't have been throwing a birthday party against his wishes, and it caused him harm. So that's where you are. I mentioned a second ago, remind me. A while back, I did a story where I called something crazy. Not a person, but a thing. I said, that's crazy. And I maybe used the word crazy in the title of the video. Crazy. C-R-A-Z-Y. Crazy. I got an email from a guy, very, very upset. And he said, Steve, you shouldn't use the word crazy because you're not a psychiatrist. You can't diagnose somebody's mental illness. And I wrote the person back and I said I wasn't using the crazy in that context. I was using crazy just to describe something as being outlandish or wild because it wasn't even a person I was describing. And he goes, yeah, but when you use the word crazy and you use it wrong, you're belittling people who have mental illness. I said, I wasn't talking about people. I was talking about a situation that's crazy, something that was crazy. And he kept coming back and saying, yes, but you can't do that because that's making people with mental illness look bad. And he said, and you're not qualified to, diagnose somebody as being crazy. And I wrote him back and I said, do you really think doctors actually diagnose somebody and write crazy? This guy's crazy. Diagnosis? Crazy. But I'm just letting you know because that's the kind of thing. I get emails about all kinds of topics every single day. And it can actually be kind of a head scratcher from time to time. Because, quite frankly, the guy who sent me that email, he's crazy. This story was sent to me by a whole bunch of people. Ron, James, David, Paul, Joe, Chris, Todd, Jay, Samuel, Bill, Keith, Tequila, and Steve, not me, all sent that from WLKY.com. But widely reported, Kentucky man sues employer for throwing him a birthday party. Now they owe him $450,000. One more time, because I said those names so fast, and I got a lot of them. Ron, James, David, Paul, Joe, Chris, Todd, Jay, Samuel, Bill, Keith, Tequila, and Steve, not me. Thanks a lot. Questions or comments? Talk to you later. Bye-bye.
Thank you for watching Lehto's Law. How does a skeleton pay for things? With cryptocurrency.